to the Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tay Henderson, and with me is the beautiful Petra Costa. And today we are chatting about outer space. Is there a reason to scream? And it turns out there are plenty of fucking reasons to scream.
Plenty. Not that anyone will hear you.
Not that anyone will hear you. It's pointless. Space is a vacuum. You may as well just scream on the inside. But yeah, and you know what? You don't even have to go into space to experience the horror of space, which is probably the most scary part. And a lot of it originates from the great big ball in the sky that we call the sun, that, you know, nourishes us, but with
the life giver.
One little bitch fit can cause a lot of havoc. So Petra, tell us about outer space and then lead into the sun.
Lead into the wonder. Wonder. Now, obviously, we're talking about outer space, the final frontier, and I'm obviously going to get locked down on science, and so I'm going to get taken away. So I'll just give you a little brief definition. Outer space is the expanse beyond celestial bodies and their atmospheres. It contains ultra-low levels of particle densities, constituting a near-perfect vacuum of predominantly hydrogen and helium plasma. And that is permeated by electromagnetic radiation, cosmic rays, neutrinos, magnetic fields, and dust. And the pressure in space is so low that the molecules spread out, creating the vacuum that we know is out there.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Then we've got beautiful gravity, and it's drawing all of the matter together, beautifully forming gas clouds and stars and planets, but leaving everything in between almost empty.
Yeah.
And we now know that we're in an expanding universe.
Yeah.
And the outer reaches of this expanding universe are expanding at a much greater rate than the more recent universe as to where we are, and the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy and all that kind of stuff. So what that's going to mean is eventually all of the stuff, they're just leaving us, and they're in a race and they're running.
Catch you later.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
So this area they've got in between is just eventually going to become dark. There'll be this little patch of us all together here, boys, that are left at the center of the party, and everyone else has just gone on to greater things. And there'll be this, what we have now as a vacuum is going to be it's just going to have nothing in it, no dust, no anything, because it's all flying and far, far away.
There is nothing more scary than the void.
Nothing.
There's nothing more scary than the void.
Nothing more scary than nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's cool, right? That's cool beyond cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got the beautiful fact that in this vacuum, just like they say in Alien, no one can hear you scream. So when we watch all of these space movies and the Death, Star explodes and we've got the pew, 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 you know what? Nothing.
And you know what? Researching this stuff made me realize a lot of how fantastical all of these sci-fi movies really are, because leading into this, I'm like, fuck, what's the scariest thing that I can think about when it comes to space? I'm like, the first image that pops into my head are those anorexic, worn down astronauts, and then and losing their fucking marbles and things because they've been up there for so long, isolated for so long, their bones are broken down, their muscles broken down. And when they finally come back down to Earth, it takes them forever to rehabilitate into what they once were.
Yes.
And then two, just being fucking jettisoned off into the void whilst doing an untethered spacewalk.
And spinning
forever in space, never stopping.
Because they're out in space, there's no friction, there's no action to work against you.
And there ain't nothing to fucking stop you.
You won't stop. If you start spinning, you'll continue to spin until you hopefully pass out.
Pass out or just die.
And, just die. Whichever one. I'd love to pass out before I die, to be honest, if I'm just spinning like that. And
So you can fucking wake up and re-experience the horror all over again. Nah, mate, tap out. I'm done. If I'm gonna be
I would have vomited all over the inside of my spacesuit.
Literally.
It's literally, I think at this point in time when I'm just like spinning around going, this is honestly my worst nightmare. I'd consider ripping open my suit.
Yeah,
so that I can just decompress so quickly.
Take me space.
I'm done.
I literally thought of fucking Kylie Minogue then. Spin it around, move out. Oh, that's right. There's nothing in my fucking way because it's space.
It's nothing there. Oh, so yes, so they're frightening.
They're frightening. And I think
concepts.
And the radiation alone in space, right? Because we've got this, and you said it before, I think, with the GCR. So this is Galactic Cosmic Rays, which is code for super potent radiation that exists in interstellar space, and the technology of the ships that would be in these sci-fi films would have to be shielded up to the wazoo just to keep the fucking radiation out, because
exactly,
minimal exposure.
Don't worry about anti-grav.
Don't
worry about creating a gravitational field. We can do that. Ignore that. Don't worry about that. The radiation
is the killer over time. And and this is stuff that they're considering for people to go to Mars, right? For us to be able to travel to Mars, which they've estimated it to be a 6-month journey. But the number one hazard that they list on NASA's website on their human research program is space radiation. Now, space radiation, let's just get a little bit clear on what that is and how we blessed to be on Earth, which I don't know why anyone would fucking leave it. We combat that. So we get GCR, it's Galactic Cosmic Ray. And what happens with we're protected by this from 2 layers. So we've got ozone layer, and then we've got this electromagnetic layer or field around the planet, which has these things called Van Allen belts. And they think of them as like little channels, runoff ways of protons and neutrons that filter the radiation. And on the day side, so we know as the planet rotates, we have day when the one side of the Earth faces the sun, night when the other is facing away. So on the day side, that electromagnetic layer actually compresses to better shield and bounce off that radiation through these Van Allen belts. And so, but the fastest rays will always permeate the atmosphere. And in North and South poles, this happens quite a bit. And these can actually be traced as radioactive nucleotides, which imprint on ice cores and tree rings. And we've had instances on Earth where these rays have gotten through, and especially in solar particle events, so things like solar flares, solar storms, things like that, which is why we called the sun an asshole earlier in this episode. That it penetrates the atmosphere and can actually cause so much fucking havoc. And you people might know this as geostorms. And we've recently just had solar flares, so it'd be interesting to see if that had any lasting effect on the planet. But you did a bit of research into instances of where this has occurred.
I did, because first of all, we got to talk about the fact that the sun is this massive, for people who don't know, and I'm not going to go into much detail, but the sun is a massive fusion reactor, which is not the same as a fission reactor. Fusion reactors combine molecules, and a fission reactor breaks them apart. Now, we can't do the combining, we can only do the breaking apart. But to give you a little bit of just an insight of the power of the sun fuses about 600 million metric tons of hydrogen, 600 million metric tons every second. Now, that's the overall mass was dying. It's
I
not that scary, okay? You don't have to buy out now, okay? You're not on the sun.
I'm in a coughing fit.
You wouldn't have a cold there, though, I can tell you that. But this amount of tons of hydrogen is the equivalent mass of the Great Pyramid of Giza 100 times over. And that's what the sun's converting every second. So it's creating new elements, it's doing all of what it does, and it's spitting out these little bit of things when it has the gamma ray bursts, etc. Now, we say to ourselves, why worry about the gamma ray bursts when Taser's told us the radiation actually is impacting, not just giving us skin cancers and a bit of a sunburn, that it's actually penetrating into the ice and leaving an imprint on the trees and the ice so we can look back at these events. But I'm going to give you an idea. If a gamma ray burst goes off, and it comes down towards us and the energy is released, a gamma ray burst can release the amount of energy of 10 billion times what the sun will produce. Like the sun will produce in its whole lifetime can come through these gamma ray bursts. That's not from the sun, that's from other sources out in the universe. From our sun, we get coronal mass ejections. They take 15 to 18 hours to get here, which a solar flare will get to us in about 8 minutes. It takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years to reach from the center of the sun to the surface, but then once it's released, a normal solar flare will get him within 8 minutes. Everything else takes these other really big guys 15 to 18 hours. The shock released when these magnetic lines on the sun realign themselves. So what happens when you have some solar storms? All of the magnetic lines start getting all twisted and out of their original position. And these magnetic lines like their symmetry. So once the storm has made them all twist around, they ping back into position in a system called magnetic reconnection. And when they do that, that's when they release this burst of energy, and it generates a shock wave that obviously we can feel here. We have instances where back in 1859, the Earth experienced a shockwave event coming from the sun. And that was back when people were like using telegraph machines. Not only do people receive, they received electric shocks from touching the telegraph machines. And the heat generated from just it going through the wire work, because obviously you've got aerials that it's coming down.
Yeah.
It comes down, it set things alight.
Oh,
Okay. That's
yep.
the 1850s, Tay.
We had similar events in 2003 known as the Halloween storms, which wiped out power grids across Europe and Africa. And in Africa, they were irreparable. So no power in those regions until new infrastructure was built.
Fry systems, exactly.
Yeah.
Quebec Canada was taken out in 1989. For 12 hours, they had an electrical blackout just as a result of this, causing tens of millions of dollars worth of damages. So no, it doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, it can completely destroy us, including taking out our GPS system. Yeah. So we don't have to go into space for space to be scary.
No, we don't. Because we don't have to go. No. Space is here.
Space is here. We're part of it.
We are in space.
We're part of it, and it can literally wipe us out. We currently have about 8,000 satellites flying around the Earth. I think 40% of those are decommissioned. So just flying around waiting to bump in another piece of stuff.
Just space junk.
Yeah, just waiting to bump into the piece of tech we really need.
Earth wasn't enough. We have to go and pollute the solar system as well. Good job.
Good job. Yeah. We've got all those out there. It's not just GPS systems. There's a lot of things that are bouncing off that, our telecommunications, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. And you think of all those people out there with just pacemakers and that kind of tech, a lot of that gets signaled up off, cell phone towers, and they come through all of that network. So it's potentially, if we had one of those come down, a nice big old, what is it called? Coronal mass ejection, it could really, really fry us for extended periods of time and take our networks that cannot be replaced. So let's hope that doesn't occur.
Well, I mean, we can have that, which is kind of best case scenario when you've got, planet killing fucking asteroids and shit out there, or comets and things not comets, meteorites and stuff, which can just slightly tilt us off our axis a little bit, and then we turn into flaming ball of bitch Venus.
And that's what occurred.
That's what occurred, literally.
Exactly. So we're not just
Venus is the planet's our sister, essentially. And what happens with her is that they believe that there were oceans. They believe that there were, foundations for life on Venus. And from what they've observed, is that a comet or an asteroid, or not comets are small, but meteorites hit the surface, knocking it off its orbital axis, and Venus actually turns opposite of Earth, and they believe that shift was caused by an asteroid hitting the surface at such velocity and certain angles, and eventually over the next million years or so, the planet's surface became inhabitable. Like the atmosphere is now sulfuric acid rain and gases. There's volcanoes to the wazoo. It's just not. It's not
ideal. What you're saying is it's not ideal.
No.
Not only could an asteroid or a meteor of a certain size create another. It's not as if the Earth hasn't gone through 5 of them already, but another mass extinction event. It could completely change the environment of the planet to make it uninhabitable for any life as we
literally the KP extinction event. We can see where the asteroid hit in Mexico. Ground zero, and that was in Mexico, and that managed to wipe out pretty much 80%, 90% of life on Earth, which was all of the dinosaurs, all of the big creatures that could not seek shelter. The only ones who survived were the marsupials and the early mammals, and some of the reptiles, and ancestors to sharks and crocodiles that were, in the deep sea.
Yeah. So it's quite crazy.
Fucking cray-cray.
That's cray-cray.
Yeah.
So we've all watched the movies. We know that's not a problem, right? Because we've got the tech now.
We just again.
Bruce Willis has trained up all his people, right? He knows how to go up there. They're going to go on a drilling rig, and they're going to just put some big ice bomb on there, and they're going to break it apart, and we are going to be golden.
Well, so hopefully they are protected from the consequences of space radiation as well as microgravity while they're doing that.
While they're saying, look, you know what? Yeah. We've shown we don't really care if they live or die. As
long as somebody splits that asteroid up so that we can keep going on and paying taxes, everything will be fine.
We don't care.
We don't care. Get on it, Bruce.
Get on it. Train up your people. What can't we do anything about? We can't do anything about black holes. We can't do anything about these things. These are like literally powerhouses. Now I'm going to go back to them for a second because I want to give you something that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything that's got the word dark at the front of it immediately takes my interest. So we've got out there in the cosmos things called dark flow, dark energy, and dark matter. Right now, it sounds really ominous, but all the dark really stands for is the fact that we cannot measure it. It cannot be empirically measured, therefore it cannot be empirically proven.
It is infinite, like the void of space.
Yeah. So, but what we do know, and this is what it makes me laugh when people are like, oh no, I don't believe in that because it's not empirically proven. What we do know is that we only know about 5% of the matter that is in our universe that we can tangibly measure. So the atoms and the protons and the electrons and all of that kind of stuff only makes up 5% of what we can literally understand and measure.
Yeah.
We know this other stuff is out there, or we're fairly confident, our greatest minds are looking into it.
Yeah.
And we've got dark matter and dark energy that make up 27% is dark matter and 68% of the rest of the universe is dark energy. And these two are two forces that work against each other, but together to hold everything together.
Yeah.
So dark energy is a hypothetical form of energy that is proposed by physicists to explain why the universe is not expanding, but not only expanding, but expanding at an accelerated rate.
Yeah.
So dark
Yeah.
energy is giving us the push.
Yeah.
The push to go out there and do all of that kind of stuff. And then on the opposing side, you've got dark matter, which is creating like a gravitational force that is almost pulling everything. It's an attractive force that is holding things together. Now, that's 95%. We have no idea, it's only theoretical. We know it's there because the maths proves it's there. But
Yeah.
we literally know only 5%. And I'm sorry, if there's ever a world where I only know about 5%, I'm starting to get nervous about what the 95% is really doing.
Yes. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm half comforted that the black void of space isn't actually really empty. It's just you can't see what's happening.
Yeah.
And then the other part is that it's not really empty. You just can't see what's happening.
You can't see what's happening.
Like,
And
what the fuck is this dark matter up to? Like,
what is it doing? Wow. When we've got the dark energy and the dark matter doing what they do, and literally we're just saying they're just exactly like the forces we have in the middle of an atom. One's holding it together and one's pulling it apart. I'm sweet. I'm golden with that. But when I find that there's a dark flow, that there's something unidentifiable that is larger than anything in our known universe, that is sucking away portions of the Milky Way, and we don't know what's doing it, but all we know is we can see that the Milky Way, of which we reside, it's our hometown, is getting sucked into something, and the movement of everything towards this spot is called the dark flow. I love the way they've called it that.
The dark
Thank
flow.
you.
Hopefully flowing into like some cool super extra dimension or something.
Hopefully, that'd be cool. But you know what? This dark flow is going on, and the science are trying to measure it and understand it. They can't even confirm the direction of how this dark flow is working. So when they actually look at it, they go, we believe it's running towards this one spot and it's gobbling up bits of our Milky Way. But to be quite honest, this is so huge, we can't rule out that it might be actually traveling in the opposite direction, which means traveling towards us. Okay. I don't like that. I'm not happy with any of that.
I don't
But
link
that's
it.
fine. Why can't we see where it's going, people? Why can't we see what this, because obviously if everything's getting pulled towards it, and we've named it,
Yeah.
it's called the Great Attractor.
Literally, I saw something about that when I was researching. I'm like, the Great Attractor.
The Great Attractor. That sounds like something new age
It
people
says
need to
it
get onto.
does. I'm like, is that the manifestation pool I've been dreaming of?
That is.
Literally.
The only problem we've got, it's really kind of huge. It's like really, really, really big. I'm trying to find the details of how big this thing is, but we can't see it because it's hiding behind the Milky Way in a place that's called the zone of avoidance.
Oh my God. Whoever named that needs like a fucking pat on the back.
Okay, so what we're saying is the Milky Way, of which we're part of, lights up the sky so much
Yeah.
that there's some huge thing, and I've got to find where the mass of it, because okay, this mass of the Great Attractor is the equivalent to tens of thousands of galaxies.
Wow.
Tens of thousands of galaxies. We're in the Milky Way galaxy, right next door to the Andromeda galaxy. And this thing that's just having a big old suck fest on the universe is tens of thousands of galaxies freaking in terms of gravitation. Look, that's the best way you can describe it, Tate.
You know what's funny about this is that the Great Attractor is hiding in the zone of avoidance.
made that connection. That is literally an analogy.
Yeah.
An analogy
An
to spiritual growth.
Literally. Fucking patent that shit. Patent that shit.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
Oh, anyway, back to sucking on the teat of the Milky Way.
Anyway, so I just find that really, really scary. And it was funny. I ran this past the family to see if they found that scary at all, and they didn't care. They didn't care one bit. Like they
That's
get
funny. Yeah.
they get the being out in the void. They get, oh, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
They get spinning around and da da da. They get, sudden decompression.
But
But the fact that
realistically,
there's something so fucking huge,
yeah,
just sitting there,
yeah,
just literally pulling it like a death ray,
yeah,
pulling everything into it, and we just can't see it because of the pretty lights.
yeah.
Is effectively what we're saying. And
We can't see it because of the pretty lights. Put your rose-colored lenses on, humanity. There ain't no plug hole in this vacuum universe. Go back to your mega attractor work.
Oh, so I think that's cool.
Well,
So
you bring up a good point there, because out of sight, out of mind, right?
Did I?
We're a species that's like, look, it's not fucking interfering with my day-to-day. I'm all G with it. It can carry on doing whatever it's doing until it becomes my problem.
Exactly.
So,
You know what? We're not going to have to worry because our particular galaxy have been ripped apart by cosmic forces way before, because dark energy will tear us a new one way before we have to worry about being gobbled up by the Great Attractor.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, it's all good, people.
It's fine. We're probably going to die from like the sun going supernova before then or something.
Yeah, so we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
But can we go into theoretical physics for a second?
Oh, yes.
Just really quickly.
Just
it was
quickly.
amazing. Really quickly.
You've got 10 minutes to narrow this down, mate. Real quick.
Okay. We've talked about parallel universes before.
Yeah.
And in our Mirror World episode, and I think in other episodes we've touched on it.
Love it.
And a lot of these things are coming back around again, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. But based on the mathematics, which is the mathematics that we've written where things are out of sync, and we talked about this in terms of mirror worlds when we were talking about dark matter and dark energy, that even without that, we need like a little Hubble constant to make our maths, run.
Yeah.
And we've also said that, that if there is a mirror world, it would be opposite to all of what we've got, and that balances out our maths and everything's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, there is another theory called the bulk. And the fact is we live in the bulk. And it's a higher dimension that is just basically sitting off of the edge of our three-dimensional membrane that we're in. So what it basically means is mathematics has said that basically our universe is three-dimensional. There are three perpendicular directions that you can move in. Okay, we know that.
Yep.
All played a 2D and a 3D shooter game, so we know exactly what we're talking about. Thank you, video games. Nice and easy. But what we're saying is they're suggesting that there's a spatial dimension which is that we can't perceive directly, but is also moving in another perpendicular direction. Why do we think that? Because the maths is pointing us towards this. There is something missing in mathematics. We're never going to find a unified theory with this bit of maths missing. So they're saying that we've got is something called the bulk, which is the additional layer, and we're sitting in it, and then we're considered in that the brain. So it's basically called a brain world theory. It sounds crazy. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but the brain world theory explains the asymmetry that's in subatomic forces. So we're talking subatomic particles don't add up, by suggesting this existence of this other parallel universe that sits there. Now, we're not talking parallel universes like there's another me in another universe. We're not talking about that. That's more like a multiverse. So we're not really talking about a multiverse in the Marvel sense of it. We're talking about just an additional layer.
Yeah.
We can't see, but some of us might be able to perceive.
Yeah.
And the mathematics is strongly suggesting that this has to exist.
Yeah.
And we're talking great minds working on it. And one thing that this also points towards, because it makes maths work beautifully, is that this bulk and the brain world theory ties in beautifully with black holes.
Love it.
Because
Yep.
all of the stuff.
Yes, because what the fuck is on the other side of a black hole?
What is on the other side of a black hole?
Yeah.
Well, obviously we don't know.
We don't know.
We have got no idea.
But it scares the shit out of us.
And I don't want to be, and the two terms of what they suggest will happen to you when you go through a black hole is you'll either get spaghettified,
Yep.
lovely imagery that comes with that, or you'll get shredded.
May as well just rip the astro suit open and get it over and done with. Yep.
Get it over and done with.
Take the helmet off. Yep.
I'm out way before that.
Yep.
But okay, so a black hole. A black hole is an astronomical object with a gravitational pull so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape it.
That's
okay.
Crazy,
you need to sort of like pause there for a second to understand the concept that something literally can give light weight. Do you know? It can literally exert so much force on it that light not only bends but just comes back in. Okay,
that's some next level incomprehensible.
I can't even get my head. I literally can't get my head around that.
I can visualize it. I can see it in my mind's eye. Do I want to believe it? Not necessarily.
Not at all. Because you know what? This is where it gets strange to me, because light is something so intangible, and to say that you can literally exert gravity upon that is almost like you can exert gravity on thought.
Literally.
Do you know what I mean?
Literally.
And I just like, oh my
goodness. It's funny you say that, because, and I just thought about it when you were talking about how we're like the brain of our, cosmos or whatever. The effects of radiation and microgravity specifically actually have a massive impact on astronaut mental cognitive health and brain function. It's one of the other things that they have to combat before we undergo any long space voyages, because what happens over time when we're exposed to microgravity is that our anatomy, the anatomy of the brain, begins to change so much that it even impacts our serotonin and dopamine levels. So they become imbalanced, which leads to other physical things like anorexia, loss of appetite, taste, and all that sort of stuff. We stop eating, leads to depression, anxiety. And so even the tiniest little tiff in a shuttle can set the domino effect for everything just going to shit, because there's the body is broken down so much by this radiation and microgravity that our immune systems are compromised, our cognitive function is impaired, and our motor skills go to shit unless we're keeping up with our fitness and health and stuff. So they're actually doing a lot of testing in the International Space Station and on ground on med compliance and med competency for people, especially when it comes to sleep disturbances. They've done studies where they had 6 people do a 520-day stint, which would be the equivalent of a Mars trip in space, just studying the impact of their sleep and how that will affect their mental health and their ability to function in flight. More than 80% of those participants ended up relying on mixed dosage of sleep medication and anti-anxiety and depression medications.
Yeah. So what we're saying is it
literally can affect thought. It literally physically can affect
thought. And that's just microgravity.
That's microgravity.
The opposite of what this black hole is exerting.
Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna come back to black holes.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna, now that you've brought it up, let's talk about what some of these horrendous stuff happens. So we know the astronauts are getting bombarded with radiation at levels that's just not good for them.
Yeah.
We know that it is impacting their DNA, that is actually changing their genome, I think it's called, is actually getting impacted.
Yeah.
They had 2 twins, 2 twin astronauts. One dude stayed up in the space station, I think, for 300 days, and his brother stayed here on Earth. when he came back, obviously he's not getting impacted by gravity. He
Yep.
comes back, he's 2 inches taller than his brother
Yeah. Yep.
when he stands next. 2 inches.
Yep.
Like, I know gravity's a bitch. Like, as you get older, you know gravity's a bitch. But that's a
Yeah.
lot, man. That's a
Yeah.
lot for your body to have reconfigured and shifted.
Yeah.
So you were saying it changes the shape of your internal organs?
It literally they find this on MRI and CT scans after astronauts come back down from space, and they do ultrasound up in space while they're there, especially if they're doing long stints, and it actually reshapes your organs. And in your brain, there are areas like your cortex and your spinal cord and the level of fluid that actually decrease. Your thalamus increases. It affects hormone regulation, it affects your dopamine, serotonin uptake and distribution, even insulin resistance and production is affected by microgravity.
Okay, so we've got that. They come back, their vision's impaired because of the impact it's had on their eyes. And that can improve, or sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they have impaired vision for the rest of their life by how their eyeball has been changed.
Literally, they have to do vision tests up in space to see, because one of the other things that they can develop is cataracts from being up there too long.
Okay, so we can get fried by radiation. Our genome will be changed. All of our hormone systems in our body will malfunction. So will our brain activity.
Yep.
Okay, that's all horrendous.
Yep.
What I didn't like the fact, and this is somehow not really horrible to me, and I don't know why, because it's not really that scary. It's probably a good thing. When they came down, they had no calluses left on the bottom of their feet. The actual skin on the bottom of the feet sloths off, so that their bottom of their feet of an astronaut is like a baby's foot in terms of the fact that it has no calluses on it. Now, great, who wants calluses on their feet? But who wants the skin to have sloughed off? That's like an acid bath. Like it's like a horror movie.
Pretty gross. Yeah.
Like, can you just imagine?
It's like bits on steroids.
It's like bits of you have got fallen off in your suit.
Well, that's what I think. Like, what's scary about in space? The scary part is the deterioration, turning into a fucking husk of yourself. But you're not, like, you look, literally, you turn into a fallout ghoul. That's what I'm picturing. What I'm picturing.
It's just horrendous. And okay, we haven't even touched on all of it because I'm sure NASA only gives us a certain amount. But I think with being studying these twins, like the guy eventually became back to his own height. So he gravity reasserted itself. But there was even photographs I saw online, and I can't unsee them. And basically, when astronauts come back down to Earth, because gravity is completely different, they have a thing where their face swells up because all of the blood and the fluid goes into their face, and their face and eyeballs swell. Like
I have not seen that. I do not think I will Google it, but then I might just out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah. So okay, so now we've done that. So
yeah,
literally, I don't know what disclaimers they're signing when they're going up there, but it's a book.
I think all of that just straight up says to me, we should not be up there. We are not designed to be in space. And it was interesting you said about the genetics too, because we know from our last podcast where we were talking about the changes in our epigenetics due to evolutionary needs to change according to our environment. So I mean, a lot of it is like acute freaking negative adverse effects to radiation, microgravity, etc. But it makes me think about over time, like in the 100, where they've got people who had to leave Earth because of the fallout of radiation and nuclear power on Earth, and they're up in space for so long that they become immune to certain amounts of radiation. Like, it would have to be over time that those epigenetics would eventually evolve to
and look, if Marvel has taught us anything, it's that radiation is one of the greatest triggers in evolutionary change. Whether it's good change or bad change, we know it changes things. Now that's I'm being facetious mentioning Marvel and the Fantastic Four and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
we actually do know, cancers are triggered.
Yeah.
Cancers in our body are triggered by radiation.
Yeah.
Radiation is one of the
Yeah.
things that will trigger abnormal cell growth quicker than anything else will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're
And
getting these
that's something else your increased risk of too going into space is just cancer.
just getting cancer.
Getting cancer.
All right, so let's go back to the black holes because they seem somehow less horrendous than
Less
radiation.
horrendous. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we've got this massive object that its gravitational pull is so strong that light can't escape, and which makes us think that thought is going to be altered as well. It has its surface, or it's called the event horizon. And one thing I learned when we were doing another podcast, actually Under the Sea, which inspired this one, was the fact that if you were standing at the edge of the event horizon and you shone a torch, the light would actually, if you get to that point, it would travel all the way around in a circle and come back and hit you in the back of the head. So if you pointed to the left and shone a torch, it
Yeah.
would come and it would, and I'm like, the concept that light would bend like that. So obviously when you
Yeah.
reach the
Like,
black
what is
hole, it
it
gets sucked in. But
refracting off? That's
well,
crazy.
it's bending the light.
Yeah.
And how does it bend the light? Because it is actually bending space-time.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. Bending space-time. So
Bending space-time.
right.
It's bending
So
space-time. So time actually slows down
in the hole.
when you get closer to the hole.
So you can rip apart slowly and surely.
Exactly.
Fuck
So
that.
so relative to the person going in there, and we can measure this. We've seen that space slows down. It's a phenomenon called time dilation, and it's been studied by scientists.
Yeah.
And they've used this tech. So this is not theory, people. This
Mm.
is not theory. It is something that's in our universe. We've got one in the Milky Way galaxy, and it can alter space-time to the level that it changes the relative time, slows down time.
Yeah.
Like I find that horrendous, right?
But
Like
when you're thinking about the Great Attractor sucking us into it, the butthole of fucking eternal nothing, slow time doesn't sound too bad.
so in that time doesn't sound
Slow
too
time
bad.
sounds too bad.
But the thing is, we've used this now. Einstein actually predicted all of this.
Of course,
Like
yeah.
the dude was just all over it. He
Yeah.
predicted this was going to happen. He was all over it. Like honestly, bring back Einstein, man. Anyone can be brought back. Bring him back. Put him on the shrooms.
Who did
And
he
put him on the shrooms, and
put
we'll
him
have
on
no
the
more.
shrooms? Him and Petra are gonna share a jar of reindeer.
We're gonna have some reindeer. You're
Einstein's
right.
reincarnated self.
Oh,
that's
bring
hilarious.
Einstein.
Yep.
But we actually use the tech of what we've learned from black holes and the fact that time gets slowed down to refine our own GPS system. Because even though it's very minor, because Earth obviously produces its own gravitational pull, any mass object, the more mass something has, the more gravity it creates.
Yeah. So
Earth does have a gravitational pull of its own.
Yeah.
As you get further away from the Earth's core, so higher in the higher above sea level, time changes.
Yeah.
To the point it's measurable enough that we have to adjust for this in our GPS when planes are in flight to when people when you're down on ground level. So I just think that's absolutely crazy that the higher the altitude that it is measurable enough that we are allowing for it in our programs to say, okay, this distance away, it's slowing down or it's getting, that's crazy to me.
Do you want to know something else that is friggin' crazy that we could probably note on end-wise? Cannibal galaxies, cannibal stars,
vampire stars, Black Widow stars.
Yeah. That's crazy shit.
Let's just explain conceptually what this is to people,
right? So this is where a star eats another star, like devours it. Just like
pretty much what it is.
Think about twins in the womb, and one absorbs the other. That's what these stars are doing in their stellar nurseries. We think, oh, cute stars.
Stars twinkling,
Look,
the
twinkling,
twinkling.
twinkle, twinkle, little star.
And it's not,
I'm gonna eat my brother. Literally.
they are also known as cataclysmic variable stars.
That's a polite way to put it.
Nice. Anything that's got cataclysmic in its name, you got to love it.
Yeah.
And basically, that twinkling, they actually pulse out energy so that they can literally break down the other star. So
Yeah.
it's easier to absorb it.
Which is appropriate Black Widow wise, because
Black Widows is
literally
perfect.
their venom
Just
emulsifies the innards of their prey so that they can eat it better.
yep, yep. So you literally got stars out there that are starting to lose their edge,
Yeah.
and they decide to themselves, "Oh, I'm close enough to Bill over there." Gives them a little bit of whatever,
Bill's
and
been
they
pissing me
literally
off
take it.
lately. Yeah.
You
I'm
said
gonna get him before he goes supernova. Fucking cunt.
I'm gonna I'm gonna get him. Yeah, so they basically do that, and I just think that's like, and there's lots of different names. Like, yeah, there's black widows, there's vampires, and they all work slightly differently. So we're being, you know, astrophysically incorrect by bundling them in together, because some of them are white dwarfs and some of them are this. But effectively, you've got bloody stars out there that are zapping their friends
Yeah.
so that they can suck in. And we're not just talking their energy, we're talking completely consume them.
Devouring them so that they
Okay.
become this big star.
Yeah, and it revamps them. It gives them it's like a lease of life on them, because stars require energy to
Yeah.
stay as stars. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they become a neutron star, and the supernova event that causes a neutron star is beyond belief.
Yeah.
So we don't have anything to do with that at all.
Fuck space, man. Fuck
Now,
space.
okay, so and we haven't even mentioned the fact that these bloody black holes can actually merge. They can devour each other as well. That's an event that I
Yeah.
don't want to see.
That's a
Like,
bit that's a bit OP.
like I'm
It's fucking
thinking, when
OP.
you've got something that has got the mass of that these guys have,
Yeah.
like some of these super massive things. I'm just trying to read my thing here. Two classes of black holes have been extensively observed. Extensively. Great. And just like the black hole's the thing we know about.
Because you can
Um,
just keep watch on that shit from a telescope and
yeah,
they're in a fucking in a space station shit.
just watching that shit.
Just watch
Stellar
them.
mass black holes, with 3 to dozens of times the sun's mass, are spread throughout our Milky Way galaxy, while supermassive monsters weighing 100,000 to billions of solar masses are found in the center of most big galaxies, ours included. Sorry? So you're saying the mass of these black holes is equivalent to 1 billion suns? You're not pissing that dude off, are you? I'm throwing shit in there. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
I reckon our ancient people had something going with throwing people in volcanoes. I think they
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
imagined it was a black
Literally.
hole. And they're
Literally.
like, oh, you know what?
This is one of the
Appease,
this is one of
appease the
the
black holes.
instances. Yeah, literally.
Appease it.
Keep the volcano satiated so that it doesn't decide it's gonna go rogue and engulf the fucking
Yep.
engulf the
Yep.
cosmos. Actually, that's funny you bring up ancient peoples because it reminds me of the myth of Ra and how he's constantly fighting off the dark fucking serpent in the sky with his solar rays.
Well, it's actually real shit,
It's
man.
real
That's
shit. It's
exactly
not myth.
what's.
It's not myth.
It's not myth. How did we know that, though? How did we know to write a story about this? We would never have been able to see a black hole, but how did we know there was something out there that is so huge and so hungry that it will just consume suns?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Okay.
That's a rabbit hole we're gonna have to explore at another time.
Okay. One thing I'm just going to say too,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, obviously we're talking about black holes.
Yeah.
Black holes are fact, science fact. Don't be telling yourself anything that, oh, we haven't been able to prove it. No, we've been able to prove it. We've been able to watch them.
Fortunately, we've been able to prove it.
We've been able to do all that. But then you've
Yeah.
got these little things, these little pesky little things that Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity
Yeah.
pointed towards. If a black hole backs onto a black hole, you get a wormhole.
Ah,
Now,
yes, the
these are
wormhole
theoretical little
theory.
buggers.
Yeah.
Now, they're theoretical, of course, and
Yeah.
they sound fantastical, right? Like, quite frankly, I was looking at this and I've gone, you've gone too far. You've gone too far. So basically, a wormhole is thought to be essentially a tunnel from one place in space to another. When you have a massive object in space time, it basically creates a curvature of
Yeah.
space time in a nearby region. I don't want anything that curves my reality. Reality shouldn't have curves in it just because there's a big fella in that area.
I know it's a theory, but honestly, I would believe it because there is literally a big old great attractive black hole slowly sucking the universe within it. There are black holes that are just bending space-time and light. Like, this is fantasy shit, but it's out there. So
It's out there.
why not have a fucking wormhole? How about we just get in our little space shuttles, and travel to these wormholes and to visit the mirror dimension?
I quite frankly,
Once
after
we nailed radiation and microgravity and making sure no one kills each other on the shuttle in the short time that they're on there, short time,
the short time,
let's just fucking go
let's
through the
just
wormhole and see what happens, eh?
let's go into the wormhole. Now, like it does seem fantastical, but we've already established the fact that our space time is getting altered, measurably altered by a black hole, and they're huge, and they're like, how is it that far fetched to think that this could be the case? Like, I don't think it's far fetched
I don't
anymore.
think it's far
I don't
fetched
think it's
at all.
anyway. They were first theorized in 1961.
Yeah.
Um, and while reviewing another physicist's solution to the equation in Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, Austrian physicist Ludwig Flamm realized another solution was possible, which he likes to
What's with
describe.
these names? Yeah.
Ludwig Flamm.
Nordic plum.
Ludwig come up and then he said, "Look, I'm going to call it a white hole," but what he was actually talking
Oh, yeah.
wormholes. Um,
Wormhole. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would be effectively connected because you've got a black hole here and you've got a black hole here.
Yeah.
There a hole everywhere, a black
Wormhole.
hole. And when those black holes get too close to each other, it's like a funneling system, and it makes sense because they
Yeah.
are funnels. They're like these. It's a drain. It's like the bloody when you flush the toilet, but on
Yeah.
roids, and they're combining and creating this bridge that literally pops a hole through space time. I think if we can accept the concept that space time can be bent so dramatically that
Yeah.
actually time is slowing down, it really shouldn't be so like time would be something that I think is more difficult to alter than the physical presence on Earth. Do you know what I mean? Punching a hole into another universe to me would be easier to do than change
Literally.
time.
Yeah.
Because time's like this magical constant that sits in the background that gives order to the universe. And we're just saying that, yeah, we can make a bridge and we can make a bridge through it.
Yeah.
And they became called their Einstein-Rosen bridge. That's what they're called. Einstein-Rosen bridges.
Rosen bridges. See, I like that better than wormholes. It
Yeah.
makes it feel like some mystical shit, you know?
Yeah, it's a Rosen bridge because it was in Einstein got back on it and worked with the physicist Nathan Rosen, and
Yeah.
he used his theory of general relativity to expand on the concept of this. And here's the thing: have we gotten Einstein wrong? Has he gotten much wrong? Because he said his
Nah.
biggest mistake, Einstein's biggest mistake, was having the theoretical constant, that he had to invent a theoretical constant to make his general relativity model work.
Yeah.
And then later we said, no, no, it wasn't that. It was really this. Do you know what? It's actually come back into modern physics that his constant was actually correct, and that was what became the what's it called? I said it before. quotient that we have to use to make our mathematics. It's gone back. So Einstein, even what he thought was his biggest mistake, is ended up being bang on. We just didn't understand it enough.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we found enough.
I think the space exploration ends here.
I think it ends here. But the thing is, Tay, is it going to end in the big crunch, the big freeze, or the big rip?
Oh,
these are the three ways.
Yeah, what way is it gonna? Is it all gonna come to a close first?
So to give people a bit of an idea of what that is, right? So the big crunch is the opposite to the big bang. So basically, it's assuming the universe is like, it's like it's a lacquer band, and you can spring the lacquer band out, but it will eventually come back, so that the all of everything will just go, like it never existed. And in that doing that, a new universe is probably going to happen. Then we've got the big freeze, which is the concept that the outer regions of our universe, which was I was mentioning before, are traveling, which we know this. They're traveling at an accelerated speed, which doesn't make any sense to us.
So it makes everything sparse, and then
there's not enough
light to reach the planet. And
and everything will freeze out. It'll freeze up because it's there's
too
not
far
enough.
Away.
Too far away to get any benefit from it.
Think Pluto.
Pluto.
Or Pluto.
But then we've got the big rip, and basically, which
it's gonna rip us a new one. Too many hole analogies.
That sounds like the universe farting. Does it not?
Literally. Well, I mean, it won't make a sound, so it will be silent and deadly.
Deadly. Oh, that is, okay. Back to physics. When the universe does its final fart, the big rip occurs. Effectively, that means that the dark energy will have literally expanded everything to near infinity levels, and it will just tear everything apart. Now, this sounds like you're just tearing a piece of paper apart. No. We're not talking about just like chunks of universe going off and being ripped apart so we just cannot recognize it anymore. We're talking at an atomic level. All of the atoms that are in the universe and everything that makes up the universe will just go.
Like when you pop a water balloon and the water just goes everywhere. And the outer shell just disappears.
Goes everywhere. Okay.
I don't know.
So what's the scariest, Tay? What have you found out of all of that? The scariest?
I actually think the freeze would be the scariest.
Yeah.
Because you would still be around to fucking see it, and you wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Whereas the other two, it's like it's over in a flash and you don't even see it coming.
Yeah, you don't see it coming.
There's nothing to be scared of. Whereas the freeze, it's like, I mean, we know what an ice age is like, right, on our planet. So imagine that on just steroids and no way to run from it and no possibility
at
to
a
live.
universal level.
Yeah, and not even the core would save us. Like there's no tunneling away from that shit. There's no canine reemergence.
No, exactly.
Mammal's done.
That's done and dusted.
That's gone. We're gone.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Fuck space. Let's.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I will point out, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. Like, to be honest, I find black holes not scary. I find them freaking intriguing. Like, I actually can't bring myself to find them scary because they seem so far away. What makes them scary to me is the geometry of them is replicated in things on Earth. And that's where I start going, why do we remember we talked about it in the Under the Sea?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I keep thinking like a lot of the stuff that's happening out in space, even with the flow of dark matter and like the cannibalizing stars and things, like they're just reproductions of things that happen in nature on our planet and in our bodies and stuff. Like I think of inverse mitosis when I think of like the cannibalizing nebulas and all that sort of shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's where it gets crazy.
It's just getting recycled and from one form into another.
And that's why I think we should keep our eyes out into the heavens, because there's so much out there we don't understand. 95% of it, at least, no, 95% of the matter that's out there, we
don't even know
matter's
what's
the wrong
happening.
terminology, and I don't want to have all of the. I know we get watched by a lot of quantum physicists, so I don't want them coming back and telling me that I've used it. I know it's incorrect terminology because we're talking about matter, we're talking about energy, we're talking about a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying we don't know about 95% of it. But it does freak me out in terms of black holes that we have the same things forming in our oceans. We do not know why they're forming. They have a very, very similar structure, minus the gravitational pull, but they do pull everything within them.
Yeah.
And then we've also got, again, I mentioned in or under the sea, Jupiter's red spot that has very similar thing. Like when you've got a blooming storm that's been raging for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
That is, it's slowly starting to shrink, but they have no idea what's causing its color, what's feeding the storm.
Yeah.
And we have sent up our little thing up there to have a look at it. I don't even know what the name of the little thing is, but NASA sent Juno up there.
Yeah.
Little Juno went up, and Juno can only penetrate to a certain amount of, I'll go with miles because that's what I've got here, but it's like 200 miles, which is 321 Ks. That's its max. And that red spot, the funneling that goes down to the core of Jupiter, it goes for 200. So it can only see to 200 and it's going to 200. And we can't understand how that could still be feeding itself. And it also is propelling almost like a jet stream of hyperheated energy out of it.
Yeah.
So we've got these, like a black hole, which is almost like an energy vortex, taking it in. And then we've got a Jupiter red spot, like sending it out. And we do not know what's creating these crazy spinning patterns in amongst our own oceans, on Jupiter and out in the galaxies. So I find that the craziest. That's the bit where I just sort of like go, decompression, as long as I don't rip my suit open, I'm fine. I don't have to do it. What is it? That Arnold Schwarzenegger, where his eyeballs pop out of his head.
Yeah, yep. Literally.
I think he was on Mars, wasn't he?
Oh,
that Total Recall.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been an age.
Alrighty, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Big topic, very expansive.
Loved it.
Yeah, shit.
Loved it.
Space, you scary motherfucker.
You scary motherfucker. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to mention. I've got to do it really quickly. There's one star out in our galaxy. I've forgotten its name. So sorry, everybody, but you can Google it. There's a star that is flashing in a pattern that doesn't make any sense. It's like something is going in front of it, but it cannot be a planet, because if a planet was going in front of this star, it would only cover up 1% of its luminosity.
Yep.
And it's just sitting out there, and it basically...
I actually think I know the star you're talking about.
Yeah, and they hypothesize, people that are putting forward this is one of the greatest conspiracy theories out there at the moment, is going that it's actually got circular rings that are going in front of it, almost like an alien construction. Now, of course, that's taking it to a ridiculous level. But
yes,
the fact is, it cannot be a planet traveling in front of it. It's something that's traveling in front of it repeatedly, and it doesn't have anything in its orbit.
Yeah.
So we do not know why this thing is doing it, but it's doing it in a repeated pattern.
Yes,
that's what I don't like. I don't like repeating patterns out in space.
No, well, we haven't even touched on the whole possibility of alien life or anything. So we're going to have to segue that into another episode.
I think we've got that coming up in episode 5 of this season. We're going to do that. But what are we doing next week?
I don't know.
I know.
That's your job.
I've got my spreadsheet open. We are going to look at, when we did our first season, we talked about the difference between hauntings and ghosts and different things like that. So we are going to look into the famous hauntings throughout history and what makes, back to our roots here.
Back to our roots.
Something can make sense.
Yep.
This space doesn't make sense.
Possibly.
It may be.
Or we just go down the wormhole of what the fuck's going on in these places and why those places, and there's gonna be some ley line shit. There's gonna be some stone, what's it called? The stone record.
Oh, yeah, the stone tape theory.
Yeah, stone tape, the stone record. Oh, the stone tape theory, limestone, water.
So much.
We're gonna get into it. But let's end this episode by talking about a cat. So one of little Fluffkin Junior's kids is like, Dad, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be the first cat in space. Fluffkins is like, son, that's an admiral dream. Do you realize what the fuck's actually up there? He's like, no, Dad, what's up there? Well, you've got these things called cannibalizing stars that eat each other by slowly vibrating and absorbing each other, so they get bigger and bigger. And then eventually one day that star's going to be like, fuck this place, and just blow up and go supernova. And we might be in the blast, we might be in the kill zone, we might not, but either way, that's out there. But if that doesn't kill you first, the radiation will. And if that doesn't kill you first, the microgravity is going to turn your brains into mush and, reshape your organs until you're pretty much the husk of the little kitten you once were. So if you want to go into space, that's your choice. But I personally, mate, I do not recommend. Curiosity may have killed a few cats, but there is no growth in ignorant bliss.
Oh, we weren't going to hurt the cats.
No, I'm just trying to save the cats. We're trying to kill less cats this season, all right? We want them to live.
There was a good moral lesson there in terms of, listen to me, Junior.
Yeah. Don't go out and fucking space.
Keep away.
You're a cat. You were built for Earth's gravity, not for floating around in the void of space, spinning for eternity because you didn't put your nitrogen fucking backpack on in the right angle and you shot out in space without a rope.
Yep.
Stupid.
All righty. That was a good one. I love that. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next week.
Yes, we shall see you then.
Bye.
Bye.